Hi, I'm Dr. Solène Tircuir, sociologist, global health expert, and immigrant storyteller.
And I'm Sacha Redon, entrepreneur and startup advisor passionate about helping founders from around the world.
Welcome to Beyond Borders, a podcast about what it really means to build a life, a career, or a dream far from home.
Each week, we speak with people who've crossed countries and cultures, sharing the challenges, the breakthroughs, and the unexpected moments in between. That's where the real story begins. This is Beyond Borders.
Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Solène Tircuir, and today I am thrilled to welcome Ikram Gerd to our podcast Beyond Borders. Ikram is the Chief Marketing Officer and U.S. General Manager at Aspivix, where she's leading effort to transform women's health. With over 20 years of international experience in healthcare, Ikram brings expertise in strategy, marketing, and innovation, and she was also recently named one of the top 100 women to know in America. We're so happy to have you with us today. Welcome.
Thank you, Solène. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here. And thank you for this opportunity to share my story.
Of course. And Ikram, before we dive into your work today, how does it feel to be among the top 100 women to know in America?
That's a great question. How does it feel? It feels very unreal and very exciting at the same time. And it just feels like it's been almost 10 years that I moved to the U.S. And it's a beautiful recognition that I proudly share with my kids who look at me and say, "Oh, Mom, that's so cool. You have this top 100 women." For me, it's not necessarily an achievement, but that's a great recognition that makes me even more excited and energized to do what I do and to take it to the next level. So it feels great. Thank you.
Congratulations. We really want to know more about this and what you've done during the past 10 years. And speaking of that, so you've worked across borders in healthcare, and now you're leading in the US. So what drew you to the US healthcare space in the first place?
Let me take a step back and start when I was young. So when I was very young, I've always been interested in healthcare. I wanted to be a pediatrician for different reasons, but then I wasn't able to go to med school. So I had to shift my career and think about doing something else. The other thing that I was really interested in was learning other languages and cultures. So I've done international trade, thinking that if I can combine work in business and being able to travel, that will be great. But then something you need to know about me is I'm stubborn in a good way, which means that when I have a goal in mind, I try to find ways to achieve it. And life is not just a straight line, so you need to be creative and find other ways to achieve your goal. Having said that, I started my career at Procter & Gamble, and then that's what led me to healthcare. So I found a very short 2 months type of contract 20 years ago, which doesn't make me look younger. And that experience became 5 years, and before I know it, it's been 20 years that I'm in healthcare. So I've been very lucky to stick to my dream. Although I didn't become a pediatrician, one of my experience 10 years ago, which was the one that led me to come to the US, was to work for a company that was developing a monitor for premature babies. So I kind of closed the loop with my childhood dream because I got to work with pediatrician and neonatologist, working more on the marketing side, being able to translate their needs, work on clinical studies, and that's all experience was just amazing because I got to learn so much on the professional side, but also on the personal side. And that's also what sent me to the US.
And do you think that this creativity and this also very unique background and interest has impacted your approach to innovation and also leadership here?
Yes, definitely. For different reasons. Through my different experiences and being able to work in France, but I also worked a little bit in Switzerland and in Denmark. And I worked globally with other teams. That opened your mind in so many ways where it shows you different ways of thinking and being innovative and being able to reach your goals. So I'm very grateful that I had that experience. And I think that's just leading to why I did international trade in the first place. I've always been interested in learning about other cultures. So I was also in the lookout for that type of experience, and that's what made me who I am. So that's definitely something I carry with me and I keep learning, and I can also bring to the US market with my kind of unique background. And that's also one thing that, not saying it's easy every day, but that's definitely something that is helpful for me and that helped me grow.
And you've been definitely very successful regarding all the awards and recognition that your work throughout the years led you to be today. And something also that I wanted to ask you is that every system has its surprises, right? And especially when you cross into a new one. And what were the biggest surprises culturally or professionally when you began working in the US healthcare ecosystem?
Wow, after 10 years, I still learn.
Yeah.
The healthcare system is so complex, maybe on purpose. So when I came to the US, that made you realize how lucky we are in France to have access to healthcare without, it's a no-brainer. Just having access to healthcare, good care here, it's not necessarily something that you have for granted. So it just makes you realize about that and being more grateful. The other thing is just an amazing, couldn't find a better word, healthcare system maze. Like, it's so complex that you don't even know what you can have access to. How much do you have to pay? I remember very first years going to the physician and asking, oh, how much do I need to pay? And they were like, oh, you'll get an invoice maybe a month from now. So it's always kind of the lottery where like you're just waiting for the mail to come in and say, oh, I hope it won't be too expensive. So that's another thing where I'm like, okay, I still don't get it. And just the different type of insurance depending on your employers, and then you need to choose in November for the upcoming year which plan, thinking about, oh, maybe next year I'll get sick or not. So, and you need to pick the right plan for your family without really knowing what will happen. So that's also something very difficult to navigate. So yeah, and the other thing is it's interesting also to see more concierge type of services. So that's not necessarily something we have in France or Europe, where people are willing to pay more for a better service, where healthcare should be accessible to all. It's like, why not? But that's also something that was surprising to me.
Can you explain what is exactly the concierge, the concept of concierge here for those who might not be familiar with this?
Yes, just think about what is a concierge in a building. So you have this special kind of service, but they applied it to healthcare. So basically you can go to a certain type of hospitals or clinics where you can have this extra service. So you can pay out of pocket. So it's not necessarily included into your insurance, but you can have an extra service for, I don't know, you have a gynecological service, but you can get on top acupuncture to better manage pain, for example. And it almost feels like you're going to a spa combined with a healthcare service. So it really depends. Some of them have, it depends on their specialty. Also for fertility treatments, there is some type of content and so on. So yeah, there's so many different examples. I can talk hours about that, but that's very something different. And for people who are willing to pay the extra service to get care.
That's a very good illustration of how complex the US healthcare system is. And also, speaking of that, how did you also, while you're still learning, as you said, because it's a very complex one, establish your credibility in this very competitive sector?
Yes, it's a daily work, making sure that there's different things that I also learned being in the US, is the power of networking. So getting to know people around you who work in the same space or not, and who can help you navigate and learning about anything. And that's not necessarily something I was doing in France. And that helps you also learn, but also be visible within your community or ecosystem. Especially if you have specific expertise, this can really help you. The other thing is mentorship. So that's also something I discovered being in the US, where I didn't necessarily have that type of support in France, and I wish I had. I wish the young me was able to have someone who looked like her and helped her navigate some of the questions I had throughout my career. And mentorship here is definitely something that is very common. People are willing to give some time and help you grow. That's also something that helped me learn better about healthcare system in the US.
And beside Aspivix, you're also very, very active in the healthcare community, women's health community. Is it something that you're trying to do as well, mentorship and create new connections?
Yes, so back then, a few years ago, I was a people leader. I had a team, and that's really when I started mentoring my team and just thinking outside of the box. How can I use that experience? Because I'm really enjoying it and give back to the community. So it goes both ways, and that helped me. The other thing I would say is I've been a marketer for now 20 years. And from my experience, I spent those years doing great campaigns, launching new products, innovation for companies. And just reflecting on myself as a person, it's like I'm not even using my own skills for myself. So how can I leverage my expertise, my 20 years of experience, the connection I have, and just the passion I have, especially right now in women's health. So all of that combined is it's kind of building your personal branding in some ways, but really believing in something and get the word out there. So that was also another thing that I've done differently than the old me. And all of that combined really helped me get to where I am right. And I think by doing all of that, I'm the type of person who never stops. So I love learning, I love growing, and it just made me, by talking to other people, you create your own opportunities. And I just feel like, okay, I work for an amazing company, Women's Health. That experience led me to also fundraise, talk to investors, and talk to other founders. And then you get to a space where, oh my God, there's so many gaps. There's so many things where others need help, and I need help too, and maybe we can help each other. So all of that combined, I'm part of the French community as well. And I remember when I came here 10 years ago, I didn't even know where to start. Keep seeing new people coming in the US, so that's exciting. How can we help them? When I myself lost maybe time by just getting to know the right people, the right structure, and so on. So going back to giving back, I think it's all about how we can help the community. And I just got myself involved in so many different organizations and projects in building women's health, first Southern California networking community. I'm also very involved with the French American Chamber of Commerce, French cluster, and others. So I just keep myself definitely busy. But that's a great experience because that makes you think outside of the box, where we tend to be like, I have this background, I have this job, and this is what I do. And it just makes you feel like there's so many opportunities. So it's really about thinking about the time you want to give it and really dedicate to. And if you want to grow, there's so many opportunities out there.
Thank you, Ikram. And just speaking of that kind of very active networking approach of your career and problem solving, what advice would you give to other women, especially immigrants, looking to take on leadership roles in healthcare innovation?
One piece of advice for female leaders, that's something that is very dear to my heart. So how can we get more women accessing those positions? So I would say find mentors, find women who look like you. But not just women, men. There's some men in my life who really helped me get where I am. So find any mentor who can help you. Be your authentic self. And if you are passionate about something, just get out there, talk to people, network. If you build some content about what you're building, if it's a business, just talk about your experience because many other women will relate to your experience. And find any support community who can also help you grow and be more visible. And I think that's what took me some time when I moved to the US. I was like in this box, coming from one job, doing the same job here. But then now I'm more on the startup side where it just feels like one of my old previous manager was the sky is the limit. So have this mindset and think about give it a try. If you want to write a book tomorrow, if you want to do create an event, just do it and talk to people. They will be the one who can help you.
Now that's very, very good piece of advice regarding the mindset and also strength, because sometimes you may think, this system, when we think about the healthcare system, very complex. When it's not the one from your home country, even more.
Yes.
And you may think, how it's going to be so much more challenging for me. But through your experience, we can tell that you're bringing something so unique, and the perseverance and the capacity to connect, because it's also a requirement when you arrive in a new country. So you're developing new skills that can make you impactful, and hopefully for the audience, it's something that will be very inspiring listening to you, because it's definitely possible. It's not happening overnight,
No,
but
but
there are also so many milestones along the way that you are achieving, and you're discovering so much more about yourself. Curvix is also a very bold innovation, right? But women's health is still full of cultural taboos and resistance to change. So, what challenges have you faced introducing a disruptive product like Curvix?
yes, thank you for this question. Definitely, I'm very excited to work for this company called Aspivix, which really focused on making experience in gynecology more gentle and modern. When you take a look at the instruments that we are still using in gynecology, especially to get an IUD, for example, those instruments were from the U.S. Civil War, so more than 100 years old and very traumatic. So I think it's definitely about time to innovate. And this is just one example amongst many others in women's health. And women's health is not just gynecology, it's way beyond that. So when we think about maternal health, reproductive health, menopause, nutrition, cardiac disease, and so on. So there's many other opportunities. We have been missing data, which leads to less research, less money for innovation, less funding overall. So the more we get interested in learning from gaps, and we are talking about half of the total population. So it affects each one of us or someone close to you. So let's take a look at the gaps and let's work all together collectively, raising awareness. We all have a voice. So sharing stories. If you have a great idea, innovate or found. You can also support founders with crowdfunding if you see something that is really dear to your heart, and you can support those founders. So there's different ways. And to go back to your questions, so we have this device, medical device, that is definitely changing the way IUD is placed. It's not necessarily something easy to introduce, even if the innovation is amazing. There's a certain step that you have to follow. So at least our device is FDA cleared. Then the next step is getting data. So we need to have clinical data that really shows the impact and the outcomes of using our device versus the current one. We have great clinical data from Switzerland, and we have data coming from Brazil and the US. So we have partnered with two large institutions in the US, Columbia University and Indianapolis IU Health, and we have great data. So that's what we are publishing. And then after that, once you have this data, that helps with your credibility. It's about building community and a momentum. So every day I have discussion with women who have had a bad experience. So this community is building together, and they are the voice influencing how the guidelines should look like. And the great news is, as of last week, we finally got an amazing news from the Scientific Society of Gynecologists, who finally listened to women and all the work that we have done in other companies, and they're finally urging physicians to better manage pain for IUD insertion, biopsies, and other procedures in gynecology. So that's a big win. Yes, but it takes time, like to really lead the company. We've created it in the US 2 years ago. So it's a non-stop effort to raise awareness, get clinical data, talk to people, find those early adopters, physicians who are willing to try something new, and then we are getting there. And building partnerships. So we have amazing partnerships with those institutions and also clinics in women's health.
That's extremely impressive, and that also gives a broader understanding of the scope of your work across the US. Connection, understanding of the clinical trials, being in touch with physicians, the marketing side of it. And this is also why now you are so highly recognized in that sector, because you're really a face of the advancement in women's health. And I wanted to ask you, what's next for you and for Aspivix in the US?
We have a plan. So the next step for us, at least in the US and in other countries, is to expand. So I'm excited because get to finally hire my first team members. So that's one step. The other one is we will be launching officially the product. So LA is very dear to my heart. So we will be launching first in LA and then New York, and then we can expand nationally. And after the guidelines, then the next step is to get a reimbursement for the product. So that's the third step. So that's on the professional side. The personal side is just continuing growing and learning and advocating for women's health. And that's also why one of the reasons we've created this community in Southern California. Because the more we get together, the more we can spread the word, the better we can change things and statue the challenge goal.
That's a good way of summarizing this talk. It happens locally, but also globally, but also this awareness and education starts close to home as well. And there are so many initiatives on the West Coast, but everywhere actually in the country. So really excited to see how all these projects grow, are going to be more and more impactful. And Ikram, if you could give one piece of advice of your younger self just arriving here in the US, what would it be?
Oh, wow. I'll have probably so many. Just believe in yourself. I think that's one thing I've been lacking very young. I had people who believed in me more than I believed in myself, but trust your gut and give it a try, do it, and believe in yourself. The worst that could happen is a no. Even if it fails, you can always learn and you can do better next time. So yeah, just give that advice, believe in yourself.
We didn't talk about it, but when you're crossing borders, you're also dealing with many administrative aspects, dealing with adapting to new rules, and you, among other immigrants, had to also find your way and doing that. And when you say believing in yourself, do you think that this whole process has been helping you in terms of self-esteem and building that confidence that you have today? Or was it more challenging and sometimes really tricky, because you have to keep going, but it's not always as smooth as we can imagine?
100% agree. Both, I would say. Navigating the immigration process when you rely on a visa hasn't been an easy journey. So very grateful of the opportunities I had. But also at some point I had to find another options. And the visa I currently have is one of the most challenging to get. And one of the conditions is to be able to show that you're an expert. So even in challenging situation, you find resilience and you find ways to, for me, it was so challenging that it's very difficult to believe in yourself, but you have to believe in yourself if you want to be able to stay in the country. And by doing that, by having also the support of people who believe in you was very helpful, because it got me think about all the achievements, all the work I've been doing for the last 20 years. So we always tend to think forward about what's the next step should be, how your career should look like, but we never stop and reflect back. And for me, that was an opportunity to just take a look at everything I've done. And I'm like, oh, I totally forgot about this clinical trial we did with this professor and this product launch and all of that. And when you take a look at your story overall, it's very inspiring, because I'm like, oh, I never thought I would be able to do it. And look where I am. I used to be very shy, not being able to go on stage and talk to people. And guess what? I'm doing it almost every 2 months now. So all of that, it feels like sometimes it's a win and you tend to move forward. But celebrate each win, because each win makes you grow. That's definitely what those challenging moments help me get where I am also right now. So I'm very grateful of that in some ways.
I love that. Thank you, Ikram. Well, now we reached the end of this episode, but is there anything you would like to add we didn't discuss so far?
I can talk hours. You know how passionate I am about all we do, women's health, helping others, especially immigrants, being in that journey. No, just, the sky is the limit. Do it. My door is always open, so I'll be happy to connect with the audience. If they have any specific question, happy to support. And I'm looking forward to listening to the next episode. And I'm very grateful to be one of your guests today, Solène. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Beyond Borders and joining us in our celebration of the journeys, successes, and stories of immigrants making their mark in the US. If you found today's conversation inspiring, please be sure to follow, like, and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast. You can also find more information at beyondborderspod.com. Your support helps us to keep sharing these inspiring and powerful stories with the world. Until next time, keep going, keep growing, and go beyond borders.